In this video, I'm going to talk about some of the gadgets I use when I'm trying to find wires that are inside walls, or in some cases underground. The first one I'm going to talk about is the toner and the probe. This is something I imagine a lot of my viewers have probably used before. This is a nice little gadget, and the way it works is you've got a little transmitter here that puts out a signal, and this is a receiver. And if I attach the alligator clip on the transmitter to your telephone wire you're trying to trace, or your coax, basically it puts out a signal that I can pick up by this gadget. You can see the closer you get to the transmitter, the louder the tone gets. And this is a great little device. One of the downsides I found with it, however, is that sometimes you're in a situation where you've got a wire that happens to be grounded on one end. If that's the case, the transmitter range from this thing will only travel down the wire for a couple of feet. The other thing I've noticed, if you happen to have power on the line, like an AC voltage, it will also cancel the transmitted signal from traveling more than a couple feet away from the transmitted signal. That being the case, one option is, of course, to unground it or depower it. Another option would be to try one of these gadgets here. This is another device you can pick up at Home Depot or Harbor Freight. And basically it's similar to the toner and the probe. This is a little transmitter here. You plug it in the line, and this is a receiver. And basically it'll help you find out where your circuit breakers are that are attached to a particular outlet, and or your wiring. Now the downside on this device here is the range on this thing is probably only about an inch or so. And it can still be quite useful, but you know, an inch or so doesn't always cut it for me. In some cases you can use something like this, although it's harder to isolate a particular wire. This is a stud sensor. And basically this stud sensor has also a voltage detector on it and a metal detector. And the range on the voltage detector, I was just trying it, I imagine it probably has something to do with the amount of current going through the wire, but I just tried it on a wire powering a lamp. It went about 5 inches, and that can be quite useful. Again, it's kind of hard to isolate a particular wire using something like this, so a toner might be a lot more accurate in finding a particular wire. But this can be quite handy as well. And another device I use from time to time, it's known as the Metrotech 480. Basically this comes as a pair, a transmitter and a receiver. Now this is a model that, it goes way back. I don't know how old it is, but I picked it up on eBay for about $100. And what I like about this thing is it will find a pipe several feet underground, or a wire several feet underground. And it's got 2 modes it operates in. One is known as the conductive mode, where you actually have to attach a wire to the pipe you're trying to trace. And the other, wait, did I say conductive mode? Yeah, that was the conductive mode. The inductive mode is where you can actually set this thing above the pipe or wire you're trying to trace, and it'll still turn the wire into a giant antenna. So once it starts transmitting, you can walk along the perimeter of your property or whatever, and you can actually use this receiver to find out exactly where the wire is buried. One of the downsides of using one of these gadgets, though, is that sometimes it'll jump services. So you might be trying to trace a phone line, for example, or a piece of coax, and before you know it, you've jumped onto a plumbing line or a gas line or something like that. Nowadays you can spend several $1,000s on a real fancy one of these gadgets, and they have some now that operate at a multitude of different frequencies, and they're known a lot less likely they're going to jump services. So anyway, I just thought I'd mention a couple of these little devices here that I use. Once in a while you find yourself in situations where it's really hard to know where a particular wire is going, and something like this can be a real good option. Not too expensive. I think you can still find it for about $100. By the way, if you ever do find yourself in a situation where you're having to dig underground, you can dial that 811 number. They'll come out and they'll survey the property for you for free. It's so common for people to rupture gas lines or telephone lines like I did out back here, that a lot of these companies now will do this for free. They'll find out where your underground wiring is. So for what it's worth, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe. Thanks.